Look, God Almighty, God, 82 years young, we'll say. Not just for the tape, because that's true. Because her spirit is alive. But it's important to say that because it sends a message to young people that you can actually stay in it for the long haul when you view it as a calling, not just a lifestyle. It's not just some fashionable option that you revel in for a moment, but rather decide this is the kind of life I want to live. That's what Sister Ann Braden represents for me. Very much so.
You know, she and Carl were really persecuted during the McCarthy era. And I wanted to know whether you saw any similarity between that really repressive time and now, and how that experience is in some way related to now. Because I think you write about it.
Yeah, when I talk about courage, it means you're willing to pay a price and come to terms with the consequences. And there's no doubt with the kind of spying that's taking place today by the Bush administration, that the parallels are very real. I mean, I just returned from Venezuela. I was just talking to Harry Belafonte, who's in trouble these days. And I was there with him. I wasn't there when he spoke because I was on the plane back, but I spent the 5 days with him. And, you know, it's fairly clear that Homeland Security is now keeping track of him and probably all of us on the delegation. But that's been the case for many of us for a long time. It's almost a compliment to be chosen. I say that as a Christian, you know what I mean? I mean, it's a compliment for powers that be to select you out and think you have enough power to make a difference. Therefore, they're going to keep track of you. You know what I mean? But it's ugly, it's vicious, because it's a violation of rights and liberties, and it begins to reflect the degree to which you destroy the very thing you claim that you're defending. You send your soldiers off to protect the democracy, but your democracy corrodes and erodes as your soldiers are out protecting it. Because what are they protecting then? If democracy is not an experiment in which people can speak their minds freely, disagree with government, dissent from a mainstream perspective, and so forth, you see. But that's always been the price, especially when it comes to issues of white supremacy on the one hand and U.S. foreign policy on the other. Anybody in America, no matter what color, but especially if you're a black woman or a black man, who wants to speak the truth about white supremacy in America, you might as well just register with the FBI, because they will be on you. It's just a fact. Same is true in terms of U.S. foreign policy. Latin America. So Nelson Mandela was a terrorist in U.S. list for 20-some years.
Yeah.
See what I mean? That's a compliment for Nelson Mandela to be on the U.S. terrorist list. And they were afraid he was going to terrorize when he left the jail. But they didn't realize he's working on a higher moral ground. He's working on a higher spiritual ground. You see, he's a deep Democrat, and he's a serious Christian. Another, to this issue here?
Well,
to this issue, because I know this brother's been trying to get in some other.
Okay, go ahead, and then I'll
come back around.
Yeah.
Here's in here.
And
Yeah.
I've got two. I'll try to keep this going. Jim Garrison, you may know, has been writing on the development of empire and the possibility that the American empire could be the last empire and the emergence of the first democracy globally. At the same time, a lot of what we're seeing is an extension of police and military integration worldwide right now, along with economic integration. In Louisville, for instance, Homeland Security is now the definition, the defining term of at least one of the university campuses. They stopped doing business incubators and other sorts of economic development here in favor of that port bureau. So given that situation, the possibilities for democratic organizing that you're addressing globally, how to partner globally, how to do local global organizing, and how to do deep democracy in the sense that, for instance, in this community and most of the U.S., there's no history of town meeting democracy. There's no actual practice in organizations of direct democratic practice. I'm wondering what you see as the pathway for both doing deeper democracy locally and linking it globally at the pace at which events are happening now in terms of empire.
Well, tough question, brother. Thank you. As you know, we could have a seminar on that question because there's so many different aspects and facets to it. But it's let me say this though, that there's different forms of democratic organizing, and there are different levels of ordinary people or the demos expressing themselves. Most of American political culture is highly underdeveloped when it comes to high-quality democratic organizing. Mm-hmm. It's partly because we're so balkanized, partly because the depths of distrust in various communities make it difficult to create coalition. That's why the alliance is very important, you see, because it's an effort to bring together people across race, across religion, across gender, and so on. It's a very difficult thing to do. Usually when people are, the demos find themselves against the wall, it's rebellion, it's protest, it's chaos producing capacities articulated, you see. And there's a long history of that in America. Not just in the black community, labor movement, women's movement, whole go on and on and on. So that the issue that you're talking about in terms of both high-quality democratic organizing and then making links to Asia, Latin America, Europe, Africa.
We so happy we alive, we together can survive. Stop the bullshit, stop the lies, and now's the time to legalize. Tell me brother, tell me true, what the hell we gonna do? Remember the days we saw purple haze, 1 and 1 is 3. Hey, hey, baby, what you do to me? We so happy, we alive, we together can survive. Mother Nature, heaven sent, don't belong to government. Hey there, sister, what's the plan? Do you really understand? Remember the days we saw purple haze, 1 and 1 is 3. Hey, hey, baby, what you do to me?
Good evening, and welcome to Louisville Late Night. This evening, we're at the beautiful Louisville Gardens, where we're about to be meeting with and interviewing Cornel West, who's one of the most innovative thinkers and stimulators and motivators in America today. We're having a big party here at Louisville Gardens for Cornel, as you can see.
Latin America, Europe, Africa, and so on really requires a level of maturity that visionaries ought to talk about, and intellectuals ought to wrestle with. But we have to be quite cognizant of the gap between what the vision is and where most people are. And I think that one of the purposes of this kind of gathering is precisely to raise these kinds of issues publicly and to support that slice of the citizenry who's concerned enough to engage in the kind of mature democratic organizing. But it's always a slice, and these days a small slice, because we have a very depoliticized citizenry. They feel, more and more feel as if they don't make a difference, they can't make a difference, and so on. And yet there must be some who continue to bear witness, there must be some who continue to raise the issues. And when the crisis really hits, because I mean, I think the country's been in a state of emergency for decades, but most of my fellow citizens don't agree with me. Now when the stuff hits the fan, those of us who understood